Welcome everyone to a casted game of Age of Empires 4, and today spawned in the southwest corner of the map playing in red. We've got Kor playing as the Holy Roman Empire, and his opponent in the northeast playing in yellow. We've got Valdemar playing as the Chinese. Welcome everyone to Gorge. That's the map for today. A great map of Age of Empires 4. I've probably said that a few times before because it really is a great map. With the HRE versus the Chinese, Kor versus Valdemar. Holy moly, that's a lot of sheep. Valdemar taking advantage of the Chinese scout. Now bear in mind the Chinese scout actually has a larger line of vision. So definitely a really good bonus for catching those sheep nice and early. And holy moly, that's a lot of sheep that Valdemar's just got, which is super important for the eco. Don't underestimate it. You might think, oh, just a couple of sheep extra, but it's not so much about necessarily how much sheep you get, but it's also how much you deny from your opponent. Bear in mind as well, the HRE, they chew through their sheep like anything. Because of the prelate, their bonus gather rate is 40% extra. Kor has got to be careful that he doesn't run out of sheep underneath the town centre, which is a real possibility because he's only going to get one extra sheep. Now what this does is pose so many problems. It he might need to get an early farm transition, which is something you definitely never really want. Although having said that, up against the Chinese, you're probably a little bit more safer to go out onto the deer camp. Now because of the situation, because of the map generation, the thing I love about Age of Empires franchise games, which is very different from StarCraft, is that the map generation really holds key in terms of not only your strategy, but yeah, essentially the choices you make in the game, which is strategy. Yeah, so there's only one thing it changes. But you know, when you factor in not only your opponent you're playing at the civilization they're going for, whilst that affects the strategy is going as well, but so does the RNG. With only 3 sheep. So what this factors in, what this means is that Kor has got to find a way. Oh no, he double-clicked his villagers. Yeah, okay, he was so desperate to get the sheep underneath the town centre, he double-clicked them. Anyway, fixed it now. So what Kor will be thinking in his mind, most likely, I would have thought, what I would be thinking in this situation is, okay, I don't have that many sheep. I don't have much food. I need to secure my... Okay, forget it. He's got sheep coming in. Scrap any of that, okay? I was trying to be smart with some strategy talk. Okay, just pretend that never happened. Pretend he didn't get the sheep, right? So he'll be thinking in his mind, well, how can I secure food? One way of doing it is a second town centre. Now, you don't necessarily want to go second town centre as HRE. Maybe you want to go for a fast castle. But you have to think about it, right? Because a second town centre might be the best way to secure the next source of food if you're up against someone who's aggressive. He's not up against someone aggressive, the Chinese. I say that. But listen, something you've got to bear in mind is if you're an Age of Empires... Oh, this guy's gliding. Holy moly. But yeah, if you do play Age of Empires 4, something to think about, while civilizations do have their strength, don't be fooled into thinking you have to play a certain way. Sure, certain civs are geared up to playing a certain way. Wait, did someone go second scout? Take a look. He did go for 2 scouts there, Kor. That's actually interesting. And that's probably why he got those sheep in earlier. Because if he didn't have the second scout, he probably wouldn't have got those extra sheep. Interesting play. And I think we've seen second scout for a very long time there for HRE. Kor doing it today. In any case, as we said about the civilizations you play, of course, civilizations have their kind of gearing, their kind of approaches depending on the bonuses they get. But listen, a lot of the civilizations still have the ability to be aggressive, even if they're Chinese, and they do get the Chukunu and the Song Dynasty. It can be a very strong unit to be pressuring in the feudal age. So bear that in mind, whilst you do have some telltale signs and certain... Usually, he's gliding again. So whilst you do have some telltale signs and general kind of guidelines of playing certain civilizations, don't feel like you have to play a certain way all the time. You can have some live wire strategy plays, and it's the reason why players like the Mister, these kind of connoisseurs of strategy, they come up with these wacky ideas, even though it might not necessarily seem so intuitive. Now with the second scout, that right from the beginning of the game tells you something about the strategy that Kor will be possibly adopting. The question you've got to ask yourself is, why is he going for a second scout? Why does he want extra sheep? Why does he want extra food? Well, to get to the castle age, you need a lot of food. And that's one way to secure that food, a second scout. Obviously, later on in the game, we've just spotted he's got an outpost and he's got a lot of villagers and goals, so that's definitely a telltale sign. It's going to be a fast castle for the HRE looking to mop up those relics. And it's always something you have to consider going up against the HRE. I've got to say, in terms of, we talked about earlier before about asymmetric civs, and they tend to focus on certain things. On many occasions, a lot of Civs, you can kind of preemptively guess certain strategies they'll go for because they're known for it. Bonuses that they get is geared up for it. The Chinese now, Valdemar has decisions to make. Often you will get one civilization of the two being a bit more dominant in terms of deciding what they'll play. They want to do their own game, HRE often. They don't want to really necessarily react. They want to do their own thing. So Valdemar needs to react. He needs to think about, okay, he's going up against a fast castle. Can he possibly go for a fast castle himself? Probably not now, because it's a bit delayed, right? He also has a Song Dynasty, so he's going to be producing villagers quicker. It means he's got less food to pump into that tech up. So he's always going to be behind if he goes for a fast castle. So what he does, and you can see the archery range, the barracks. He's also supervising one of these production buildings. I'm not sure which one it is. I think it's the barracks. So he's definitely going to get units on the field looking to pressurize his opponent. Bear in mind as well, the key detail is it's going to be the Relicts Cathedral for the HRE, so you want to deny those relics. Now, there's multiple ways you can do that. You can decide to get a lot of units to try and camp out on the relics. You can try and wall them up, and I love this play because it's really not to be underestimated. These palisade walls, they're pretty cheap for what they achieve, and they achieve a lot. They're going to be protecting these relics, keeping them away from the HRE for a long time. Bear in mind, for Core to actually get to the relics, he has to burn through the palisades. It takes a while. Not only that, he'll have to have melee units on the field, which he won't have that many of because he's just spent all his resources getting to that castle age. And this is where we see the Chukunu and Spearmen come out, a really dangerous army composition, even against castle age units. So when you factor in a player going for the castle age, they can look to get man-at-arms or palace guards if they are the Chinese. They can go for man-at-arms, they can go for stable units in the form of lancers. And really to try and counteract that, you want the Spearmen for the lancers, but the Chukunu, they'll do okay against man-at-arms. It's not ideal, but the burst damage they get, you snapped out the scout, which is absolutely huge. Cuts off a bit of vision coming out of there. So the Chukunu will be able to trade relatively well. It's got to be careful though, Valdemar. He doesn't let Core build up too much of a massive man-at-arms, because then it becomes overwhelming. Bear in mind the Prelate going to be looking to pick up relics as much as they possibly can, going on the edge of the map because he has to, right? He's to try and keep him safe, but look at this. Wall's already coming up soon. And Valdemar playing this so nicely, because ultimately Valdemar is also restricted on how many units he can use to guard the relics. So if he palisade walls some of them, the rest of the units he has can guard the others. He's going to get the palisade walls on this east one. Already got the one in the middle. And that's such a great way to deny these relics. It's kind of the whole point of going for the castle stage for Core in the HRE. So strategically, the way that Valdemar's played this already is super clean. Bear in mind though, the castle age and getting the relics is not the only play for the HRE. He has a barracks. Going to be getting those man-at-arms. So Valdemar does have a problem on his hands of dealing with that, but he does have a good standing army. Question is, how quickly will that army come out for Core? And how quickly will the army come out to Valdemar to try and defend? Now, whilst you can kind of tank and dish out some damage, ultimately when there's a massive man-at-arms, no matter number of Chukunu, no matter number of Spearmen will be able to deal with that. Especially when you factor in you've got possibilities of Iron Undermesh, the upgrade for the man-at-arms. Of course, he doesn't have that yet. It will take some time because Core's economy has, it's expensive to get the castle age. Make no mistake about it. 1,200 food, 600 gold, that's a lot of resources. Now, speaking of resources, Valdemar staying on one town centre. That's a really nice adaptation. Often you see the Chinese think about Song Dynasty 2 town centre play. And it's very common they do that. But clearly, obviously, Valdemar's had to adapt to what he's faced up against, which was the fast castle. Going to be getting a blacksmith as well, just to add in a bit of a punch on those Chukunu. And I think generally probably the most important upgrade you can get at this point is probably the Steeled Arrow. You want to take advantage of the Chukunu and what they can do. But of course, it's going to be a way just to hold the game. It's not going to be a way that he can stay in the game. He needs to take up himself. There is a knight on the back line, just denying a little bit of the villagers on wood. Valdemar reacting very quickly, not losing a single villager. Sniping out the scout, by the way, it's actually quite key. So you might be tempted to think, oh, I want to do damage to the knight. No, you want to take out the scout. Because ultimately, with the town centre fire, you're probably never going to kill that knight unless he comes in weak. But taking out the scout is huge because the sight radius of the knight is terrible. I mean, to be fair, he's hanging out here anyway, so it won't matter too much. But Spearman can engage. He might lose a villager now, Valdemar. He does. But the knight's pretty weak. Tries to snap a relic in there. Take a look at this. This is rough for Core. He's gone for the Relicts Cathedral, but only got one relic in so far. So really great denial by the Chinese on those relics. Behind all of this, it's going to be that astronomical clock tower that we see for the Chinese, giving them great siege options, particularly the SWs. Villagers coming out on the east side. What are they off to? Is he actually going to just torch this down? I mean, this is the problem, right? It feels like Core has to do this. I think maybe he might be transitioning on to something else with these villagers after, right? Because that's a lot of walking time. He doesn't have wheelbarrow, guys. If he's just trying to torch this down with the villagers to get the relics, that just shows you how desperate he is for this relic. I think he's doing that. I think he's just using it for the torch damage, which is kind of bonkers. I mean, where would he go with these villagers afterwards? He doesn't want to necessarily go on gold, but it's an interesting choice. Valdemar, he's going to know this happened. Now, of course, he's not going to be able to send units there anytime soon. Heavily infantry-based army. Makes it tricky, but Core, what's he doing? The more I think about it, it's got to be. He's just trying to torch this down. He just wants the relics so bad. He says, I got Regulus Cathedral. I want these relics. They're mine. Forget these palisade walls. Going to burn it down. This is so much value for Valdemar. Like, such cheap investment into wood walls, and it's just caused so much idle time. But, I mean, ultimately, will it pay off? Probably not. That's a lot of idle time without wheelbarrow. He's getting wheelbarrow now for the trip home. He's getting wheelbarrow for the trip home. But, you know, relic is pretty good, though. Getting that relics with the Regulus Cathedral, it's not to be snubbed, but yeah, it's probably going to take about maybe 4 or 5 minutes of just having that relic just to pay that off. As he sends a man at arm forward. Now, bear in mind, now that he's done his job, Valdemar, the main strategic thing he had to deal with at that point was denying the relics. He'd done that greatly. He could potentially have thought about getting a second town centre, could have been a bit greedy, decided not to, go for the castle age himself, get the relics himself as well, to be fair. Should be able to get a couple of them at least. That's a lot of villagers and gold. Now, oh, okay, it's the Palace of Swabia. I was literally about to say it. I didn't actually spot the resources, but he's going to go for the Palace of Swabia to build up a lot of eco. Now, we're actually at this weird point in the game where going up against the Chinese, often you think you're behind and need to catch up. Now, Core technically is behind because Valdemar does have 51 villagers. Which, wait, did he get a second town centre? No, it's a Song Dynasty, of course, yeah. So he is behind, but it's not as behind as maybe you would usually find yourself as the HRE. The Chinese often go for a second town centre. Song Dynasty can be really strong, but it means he's going to be playing into the Palace of Swabia, going to build up their eco. Get a lot of villagers on that wood line. And we do start seeing that transition to the farms, which is quite common at the stage of the game. What's interesting now is that Valdemar, the way he deals with this, where he reacts, is probably going to be staying in one town centre. He's got two options, being aggressive in the Castle Age, going for Castle Imperial Age himself. I would imagine he's going to be aggressive in the Castle Age, bearing in mind that the HRE got the cheaper tech up. Palace of Swabia is significantly cheaper in terms of getting to the Imperial Age, rather. But it does mean that Valdemar is going to be on a timer, right? He's got to find a way to do damage as quickly as possible. Bear in mind that he's got 34 military, whereas Core's got 3. One thing to consider for Core, you might be thinking, how is Core going to get away with this? Why has he only got 3 military? Well, he's going to get outposts with cannon emplacements. The cannon emplacements, I got to say, if you play up against HRE, it's probably one of the most infuriating things because you can't deal with it with infantry. You've got to get siege on the map. And that will delay Valdemar's push, at least on top of that gold. Although, he might just try and zerg his way through and deny gold income as much as possible, which he is. But he's going to have to garrison aside. We're keeping it idle, but ultimately the cannon placement in now is going to get the tech up for the fortification. Without that, actually, it's a bit of an easy thing to deal with, actually, to be fair. Emergency repairs, though, comes in clutch for HRE. The most annoying tech in the game, I believe, personally. I don't know, guys, how you feel about it. In fact, let me know in the comment section below if you guys are watching this on YouTube or if you're watching Twitch live. How annoyed are you when you see emergency repairs? You guys are probably less irritated by it than me, but for me it's very irritating, gotta say. Yeah, we've got a sassy player thinking so, but that's because you're a good player. You're a logical player. For guys like me, it's irritating as hell. But yeah, certainly got to think about it and factor it into your calculations in the way. I don't think it's necessarily broken. It's just irritating as hell. Bear in mind, sacred sites are up for grabs, and Valdemar getting the one in the north. But the reason why the cannon emplacements and the emergency repairs work so well for the HRE is because At this stage of the game, he needs to buy time. He needs to let the Palace of Swabia do its thing, and well, he's doing it right now. He's getting the village account pretty nicely. He's caught up in village account, and Valdemar does have a good standing army, though. I wonder whether we start seeing the farming transition for Valdemar. There it is in the north with the granaries. And whilst this is not as nice as the Jushi legacy with the Song Dynasty cheaper farms, well, the granary farms for the Chinese are still pretty solid. It does feel like Valdemar is thinking about their Imperial Age. Like, he faced up against the cannon emplacement in the outpost, so he's got a decision to make. Does he continue to try and be aggressive? Does he go to the Imperial Age tech up himself? It looks like he's going to go for the latter. He's going to go for the tech up. And I don't hate it. I don't hate it at all. I got to say the pendulum has swung the other way, though. With Valdemar now probably having to be the aggressor in the next 10-15 minutes because, the Palace of Swabia is going to really boost up that economy for the HRE. Spearman heading north and just pushing away that knight. I like this play by Core. Like, he's not going to look to do critical damage. Like, he's just going to drag a lot of the army, which is exactly what Core needs to do, right? Thinking about Core's position, you want to make sure your enemy is as far away as possible so you can build up that eco. I love these palisade walls, though. Valdemar really making the use of these. I think there's a lesson to be learned in this casted game about palisade walls and their utility. Because bear in mind on Gorge, the most direct access point to your enemy is through the middle. You wall it up, it delays things a bit. And it also gives him an attack notification if his opponent's trying to make a move for the middle. Valdemar, though, having said that, probably needs to be aggressive, but he just is wary, right? He's wary about pressure coming his way, especially as he's taking up to the Imperial Age with the Spirit Way landmark. Now, the Spirit Way landmark is going to be a nice one for the Chinese. In fact, I haven't seen the Chinese being played for so long because of all the new civilizations hogging the limelight. But it's also going to be giving the dynasty technologies 50% cheaper, and obviously going to be increasing that research speed. Also, bear in mind that when a unit is killed, it will be healing up nearby units. It's actually quite nice as a mechanic, and we should be seeing those beautiful green plus signs as units are being killed. Going to be getting a keep now. This is where things get a little bit tricky for both players. You need to make sure the gold is safe. The map like Gorge, you tend to have two main areas of the map. One for each player, of course, where the gold veins tend to chill out, and obviously Valdemar has his on the north. Core has his in the south, and that keep is in a very good spot. Going to be protecting the two gold veins. Now, typically with the HRE, we do sometimes see a town centre being placed with the keep just to make sure they get access to emergency repairs. Not necessarily for the villager production, of course, with the Palace of Swabia, it doesn't really need that. Now, factoring the army composition of choice, it's quite important in this stage what both players tend to do and go for. We do see a bit of a switch into horsemen and elite man-at-arms, which is obviously very typical for the HRE. How the Chinese deal with that? Possibly crossbow spearmen, which is not a bad army considering he had the production ability set up really. He had a lot of... Well, he had a barracks and archery range to start off the game, so we won't need to switch things up too much. Gets a sacred site in the middle, and Tithe Barn's coming in for Core. I mean, he does have 2 relics to be fair, but it's a bit horrible playing as the HRE and not having 3 relics at least. Like, it's a bit rough, and I think it comes down to how well Valdemar did at denying those relics. It was a really nice approach, a really nice way to showcase how to do it effectively, and that's a lot of farms coming out. Valdemar, with a great farming transition, gets a second town centre himself, and I think it makes sense, right, because he's not able to apply too much pressure, so he's going to boom away a little bit himself with a third town centre as well, just to keep up as much as he possibly can. Bearing in mind he's got Song Dynasty, so he certainly will be keeping up. It then comes to question, well, who has a better late game? It's an interesting one. I feel like in many ways the Chinese do. We'll see if Core can... I think they're relatively similar. I'll be interested to see how this one plans out. I think Chinese, of course, have a lot more versatility in terms of units. He's looking to get the good old ancient techniques. Going to be increasing the villager gather rate. So it's something to think about, sort of late game mechanics, and think about villager efficiency of gathering. Of course, the HRE do have the Ark and Chapel. The food will be great, but hey, listen, the Chinese do have the granary. Not too terrible themselves. Oh, on the east side, a couple of horsemen going in there for core, mostly just to get some scouting information, really. I don't think they'll be able to achieve too much, especially with the spearmen in play. And he's going to get the Imperial Palace. This is such a nice landmark in the position it is. It's going to give a lot of vision. This landmark and its vision is insane. I think, it's like title thumbnail type insane. It's really good, the vision. And it's important to have vision, of course, to see when the opponent is attacking. And, well, Valdemar's definitely going to have that with that going up. And that would unlock the Yuan dynasty, if I'm not mistaken. And the reason why that's actually kind of important is he's going to be focusing on keeping the Yuan dynasty in the late Imperial Age. The reason why that's significant is because that's going to be giving a movement speed a buffering for the infantry. And bear in mind, he's got a large infantry-based army. Horsemen are going to dive in. Doesn't deny that landmark. In the end, the horsemen are going to be pushed away. The one thing that's good for core, though, will have the mobility. Although on a map like Gorge, with the amount of walling that Valdemar's done, the mobility not necessarily a huge deal. But let's take a look at... Oh, okay, Spearman can dive in. Core does back away. Certainly the right thing to do. And let's take a look at the vision that this gives, by the way. I assure you, I have put Fog of War on. I assure you. That's just how much vision he gets. Absolutely bonkers. You can't tell that I put the Fog of War on almost, but I promise you I did. In any case, we're going to try and break through on the west side. Valdemar going to try and delay it as much as possible. Palisades doesn't work out in the end, and Spearman have to get in good position now. Now, he might actually lose the Imperial Palace. It only just went up, unfortunately. And we do see a large mass of elite man-at-arms and hand cannoneers. Core looking to raid with the horsemen in the north. Spearman getting in position. Valdemar, it's a bit tricky for Valdemar, right? Because he's obviously on the defensive. He's going to have to react as much as possible. But bear in mind the Yuan dynasty, that's certainly going to help in that movement speed. The horseman diving in, oh, that's going to be a... Core. Got to get out of there. He does in the end, but lost a couple there. And his palisade walling that in, so he's going to trap those guys in. Man-at-arms going to go right through the middle. Now, it does have the Barbican in the sun as a static defense right from the beginning of the game, which certainly has some quick walls come up there for Valdemar. Would he get him up? I think he just about does not get it up. Okay. I mean, he almost did. It almost worked out quite well. Village is going to have to fight. Spearman not going to fight. Well, Core, he's going to try and get some value against the... don't know how about this. So the issue is that... Well, let's focus on the fight in the middle, because there's a lot of man-at-arms focusing underneath that Barbican in the sun. Decent amount of crossbows, though. I'm not sure these man-at-arms will work here. There's even a monk there healing up for the Chinese. Spearman coming in play. The hand cannoneers, on the other hand, they're going to get good value. More man-at-arms coming in from the south. And Core's going to be... I mean, he's going to lose units, right? I don't think this is an effective trade. Defender's advantage going to be a little bit too strong. Magic, thank you for the raid. I appreciate it, dude. Hope you had a good stream. Hope you're well, dude. That's a lot of spearmen, though. I mean, this is a fight that Core can't win. Even with man-at-arms. Decent number of crossbows, a couple of hand cannons coming out for Valdemar as well. But you can see the constant stream of units there for Core. A lot of horsemen diving in. I've got to say, the economy is stronger for Core. He's being aggressive at least. And going to be getting elite army tactics there, Valdemar, just to make the infantry even stronger. Coming out at perfect timing, to be fair. Just before we're about to see a big fight. The horsemen, I don't know how much value they're going to get. This is looking an interesting battle for now. He's going to get biology coming in. Man-at-arms will do well against the spearmen, but he's got to be careful about the hand cannoneer numbers that are starting to build up there for Valdemar and the Chinese. Now, bear in mind the hand cannoneer actually have an extra range for the Chinese. The hand cannoneers for the Chinese, I got to say, one of my favorite units is possibly not commented on enough, but the extra range gives them so much value. It means that the HRE can't... I mean, the hand cannons for China is just better. Put it that way. Man-at-arms, they're going to rip through the spearmen. As we said they would, horsemen are going to get some value on the hand cannons. If the horsemen can dive on the hand cannons, it will certainly help. I think Valdemar has to pull away. He's getting a couple of outposts. Core looking to start control the middle of the map with those outposts coming up. But yeah, to finish the thought I had earlier, often thinking about raiding to death is tricky against the HRE. But it's definitely tricky against the Chinese when he has this number of town centers as well. Take a look at the farms. Holy moly, Valdemar. That food income looking absolutely beautiful. Now factor in, he's even out food gathering the HRE, even with the farms on the Ark Chapel. Now that is saying something. Now where does Valdemar go from here? He's kind of pegged at home. It's kind of a problem. Good control of the map there for Core on the middle. And you got a sense that he might start to push soon. Feels like hand cannoneers could do well for the Chinese, but he's got to mass them up. Population looking healthy for both players, as you'd expect this time of the game. 25 minutes on the clock. No real siege. I wonder if rams are going to come out for the HRE. We kind of expect it at this stage. The reason why I say rams in particular, because they're very cost efficient in terms of what they do. It only costs wood, and considering they can really change a fight. Like we talked about raiding to death and how hard it is to finish games off doing that against the Chinese or the HRE with this number of town centers and the Palace of Swabia. One way you can do it, finish games off, is not necessarily by raiding, but taking out the infrastructure, which is going to be needed to be done by siege. Siege, cheap, cheerful option are rams. Could go for trebuchets if you want to use the ranged kind of thing aspect of it, but I don't know, it feels like rams these days are gaining a lot of traction. Of course, Core will be making that decision and we'll see what he decides to do. Gonna get cannon placements on the outpost as well, something the HRE do so well, and I mean, yeah, there's no real way for Valdemar to push this off easily without siege of his own. Bit of engagement in their north on the Ababa, going to sound a lot of man-at-arms. The trouble with Valdemar, he's producing a lot of spearmen. That does save up a bank of gold for him, but he's got hand cannons behind there. Take a look at the hand cannons ripping through those man-at-arms. There's a large number of them. And he's got the Yuan Dynasty, right? These guys are fast. They've got massive range, and I wonder whether that'll be the telling difference in this game. It's such a strong unit, the hand cannon is, with Yuan Dynasty as well. Going to be taking down this outpost pretty quickly. Fortification gets cancelled there. Core doesn't want to use those resources, understandably so. He does have emergency repairs to take advantage of, but didn't want to use it on that because there's not much HP on it. He gets the torch down in the end. But take a look at the village, the miniature count. 60, 70 for Valdemar versus 39. Core's kind of a bit in a tricky spot. Like, I wonder how he pushes this with the lack of military. Especially when you factor in the eco is just stronger here for Valdemar. The bank of resources is looking scary. Valdemar could probably reproduce this army twice over. Can't really say that. I mean, you probably could say that for Core, but just purely because of the lack of numbers he's got. Core, though, 150 villages. I wonder if he's overboomed here a little bit. I mean, ultimately, it feels like he kind of has to. He's behind on economy. We've got obviously the vision of having resources he has. Now, one way to play this in the late game is to actually have a massive villager boom, gather a lot of resources, put it in the bank, and then start killing off villagers to just try and outswarm your opponent. One civilization that does it really well is the Japanese. And I think Core is looking to try and do it with the HRE. There's a lot of dead cavalry in the north. Spearmen. Certainly keeping him alive here, Valdemar in the north. Like, what's kind of crazy, though, I've got to say. Like, take a look at the income. Valdemar has less villages, but he's got a lot more income. At least in terms of food and gold, which is probably the key resources in this stage of the game. Ultimately, wood, you need it for siege and production buildings, but once you've got the production buildings up, well, you don't really need that much wood anymore. That's kind of tricky. I think HRE at this point, I would love to see some more siege. He's going for bombards, right, which makes sense. He wants to push. The big trouble for Core, he doesn't really have an army to defend it with, and I think Valdemar might start to overrun him. By the time the army even get close, the hand cannoneers are going to be using their extra range for the Chinese. Spearmen are going to be bracing to protect themselves from horsemen. Going down the south with a couple of palace guards, getting a bit of raiding there, Valdemar. As much as he possibly can anyway. He's had enough of staying at home. Oh, that's a hand cannoneer switch for the HRE, but straight up, the Chinese win that fight. Ultimately, hand cannoners versus hand cannoneers. If they A-click to each other, the Chinese get that first shot off, and especially with the Yuan Dynasty, the movement speed is going to be great here. Palace guards tanking on the front. Horsemen going to be diving in. A bit of attack notification at the back, but a bit of raid, not all that much damage coming out of there. The horsemen diving in, not getting huge value. Spearmen, just too much in numbers. The hand cannons for the Chinese, probably stealing the show a little bit. There is a ram there for Valdemar, looking to take that outpost. He needs to take it out quickly, though, because the cannon and placement doing work. And, yeah, this is looking trouble for Core. He's trickling in units. It's not going to be enough. The standing army that's here will just mow down everything that pops in. Even the man-at-arms, he should be able to deal with this, the Chinese. He's going to back away for now, not taking any risks. There's quite a lot of man-at-arms coming out for Core. Trouble for Core, it doesn't have the food bank he needs. This is where we get to the stage of the game where that bank of resources really starts to matter. It's starting to get a lot of rams. Will they get the traction? Ultimately, your resources banked up count for nothing if you're winning the fight. You just need to win the fight, need to get that push going with those rams if you can here, Core. Could be the telling difference in this game in terms of who wins. That's a lot of man-at-arms popping out. Now, with 3,200 food coming in per minute, that's a lot. That should be able to sustain the production. And he has reduced a bit of villager count. I think he's it's been raided a little bit. It feels like, actually, to be honest, Core being raided is doing him a bit of a favor because it frees up population space that he needs to get on the front line, which he is. You know, the 3 bombards is key. If he can keep those bombards protected and safe, then the Chinese could be under all sorts of pressure. Trying to get some stone walls there on the front, but I'm not so sure I mean, it should go up, actually. It should. There's a lot of hand cannoneers there for the Chinese. And the horsemen, yeah, the horsemen aren't going to get value here. I feel like, yeah, this is a drain on resources. I don't think the horsemen get close enough to those hand cannoneers, and he's not able to raid. I mean, yeah, I'm not convinced by the horsemen, I've got to say. Ultimately, though, they are a heavily food-based unit, and so it's not like he's wasting gold units. That's the key bit of detail. He'll be able to farm to gather more food. He can't mine to get more gold when the gold veins have all gone. Palace guards, they're going to be tanking on the front line there for Valdemar, and hand cannons on the back line. And I mean, it's a decent number of bombards, but they're not going to get that much damage. Obviously, they don't have splash damage, I don't believe. Horsemen tanking on the front there. Palace guards going to rip away through those horsemen. Valdemar starting to get traction in this push. In the south, not a lot happening. I think he tried to break through a little bit, but didn't really work in the end. And man-at-arms are popping out. Stables there on the front line. Again, the hand cannon is tanking, and they're camping. So ultimately, Valdemar should be camping the production buildings. If any horsemen do pop out, they're going to be dying very quickly. The outposts are working. They're working hard, though. Cannon placement is definitely getting value. And especially that they are buffered with the fortification. Valdemar needs a little bit of siege. I feel like siege will really make a big difference. Coming out with villagers, possibly getting some outposts, a keep of his own. But this will go up. There's no way that core denies this. Primarily because the villagers build fast. There aren't that many. So only 7 villagers being sent, which is a bit ballsy. But Valdemar, he feels confident. Decamps that sacred site in the middle. Starting to overrun. 58 military versus 17. Core is struggling. Behind this, Valdemar has a strong economy. Has a strong bank of resources. Valdemar could do this all day. Palace guards, hand cannoneers. Looking like a great army composition for the Chinese against the HRE. Hand cannoneers mop up everything from the back line. Palace guards will defend them on the front line. He's going to torch everything down as much as he possibly can. And that keep is such a strong keep. It will deny, or basically fire at any units that pop out for the HRE. It makes it really difficult for them to gain traction and build up an army. Down to 9 military core. He's got to do something. He's got to do something quick. Wait, is he trading? Okay, he's trading. He's trying to get some gold income. Yeah, it's looking rough because the farming is going to be denied, and he's really struggling on food. If the villagers and farms, if they perish, that's going to mean no food. That's going to mean no army. That's going to mean no victory for the HRE. Tries to break through there with some Rams core, but only 2 villagers on hand to torch that down. I love the walls there. I got to say for Valdemar, just denying units popping through. That's a lot of production, a lot of choke points, but yeah, core. He's got to find a way to sustain a production and keep the army safe. Here comes some Rams again, right from the back. And Valdemar adding that siege at a perfect time. He's got good control. Just needs to take out the infrastructure, and that will be the critical blow that he needs. We're heading to the 33rd minute of the game, and I'm not so sure there's a way back. Like, he's got military being produced at the back, I think, possibly. Got 31 military on the field. And kind of difficult to see where they even are. There they are. It's starting to build up. It feels like Core wants to take one big more fight, but again, I think Horseman's going to struggle here. Man-at-Arms, possibly. Valdemar making his way through. Rams taking out the production buildings will take some time, so Core does have some time. Question is whether he has the eco to be able to produce those units quick enough and keep them safe. I love the peeling away of army, by the way, for Valdemar. Looking to do some damage, and this is where things become very sticky for Core, because the eco being idled is really not what he needs right now. Palace guards moving in. Hand cannoneers moving back. Valdemar keeping his army safe and secure. Man-at-Arms going to dive on the Palace guards. Now, the HRE Man-at-Arms should do better than the Palace guards, of course, with heavy maces. But the hand cannoneers is the deal breaker, you feel. There's Rams popping out for Core as well, which is not really the unit he needs right now. He needs to find a way to stabilize if he possibly can. It's so tricky, though, with this massive units. Chinese looking to start to overrun. Let's take a look at the minimap if anything else is happening elsewhere, and it doesn't seem to be the case. The villagers coming forward. I wonder if it's for more outposts. Doesn't have enough stone. He might be looking to buy it. No, he can't because he doesn't have the gold there, Valdemar. Maybe looking to get outposts. We shall see. Maybe forward production just to increase the production rate on the front lines. Hand cannoneers, though, that's such a strong number of them. 15 of them. It doesn't sound like a lot, but at this stage of the game, because they're standing and they're fighting, it's hard to stop them. Maybe mangonels could be an option for Core, but the trouble is he doesn't have enough to defend it, and Core, well, still struggling. 21 military. Doesn't really feel like he can ever really gather up the army he needs. Plenty of villagers, of course, because they've got the Palace of Swabia. And we've talked about this before. If you want to defeat the HRE, take out their infrastructure. Villagers, they keep coming back, and you can see Valdemar starting to get some outposts on the front, making sure that he's playing slow and methodically, playing it such that he can't lose from this position, securing the map that he gets control over, and if he gets control of the production buildings, ultimately Core is not going to have space to build into, at least not in the main base. Man-at-Arms having to be kept at home, trying to defend all the raiding coming in. Palace Guards using their mobility, using their speed on their feet, especially with the Yuan Dynasty, taking out the villagers on the farms, and you get the feeling that it's just a matter of time. Core trading still. Don't think trading's going to bail him out of this one. Valdemar getting the rams. Again, this is a strong push. It's actually building up numbers of rams to a point where it's difficult for Core to stop. Does have emergency repairs that he can methodically use. Going to be using it on the outpost for now, just to try and keep that alive. It's kind of his main defense. But take a look at this. A lot of the army having to fight back at home on the farms to keep these villagers alive. It means the front there for Valdemar is relatively uncontested. It means the rams will take out production buildings. And yeah, it's a slow train, but it's a train that can't be stopped. It's a train that won't be stopped, I don't think. And yeah, outposts coming in, mass outposts, means that Valdemar secures his position. The rams stealing the show. Palace Guards getting the torches out as well, just to increase the rate of decay of these HRE buildings. And Valdemar, well, this could be one big fight. I mean, okay, he's respecting it. He's grouping his army together. Palace Guards in front of the hand cannoneers. HRE waiting for their time to pounce. Man-at-Arms on the front line. HRE pipes coming from the back. There is a man get out, so there's still a bit of fight left in for the HRE. Palace Guards, though, they could jump on the mangonels. 3 mangonels. This could be a decent fight, I've got to say. For Core. The trouble is behind that if he loses this fight, it should be over. Bank of food. Absolutely insane there for Valdemar. Palace Guards, they're dealing well against the Man-at-Arms. They're tanking for as long as possible to allow the hand cannoneers to do their work. Mangonels go down. Rams taking out infrastructure. HRE again use the emergency repairs just to hold on. The tower is certainly helping for Core against the infantry. But that's wave 1 done. How does Core deal with the second wave? That's the key question, because he's lost a lot of infrastructure. If he had all these production buildings still remaining, it could be a different story. Rams actually heading back, though. I don't think he needs to head back. I think Valdemar just pushes with the Rams, got to be honest. Just give them up. It doesn't matter. They're cheap and cheerful at this stage of the game. And it forces Core to stay at home. It forces Core to deal with the Rams. And if he focuses on the Rams, then he won't be focusing on the army, which is heading his way again. There is wave 2, ladies and gents. There are the Palace Guards. There are the hand cannoneers. Will the HRE survive this second wave? The mangonel doesn't. It almost feels like the second wave is more powerful than the first even. Takes out the second mangonel. Oh, he doesn't take out the mangonel, just on its last limbs. He ignores it. Doesn't mind him, doesn't bother him. He takes it out now, and that's an overwhelming army. Take a look at that, 70 versus 31. He's got a lot of villagers there, Core, but ultimately it's military that wins the game. And it almost feels like Valdemar, with his military, will be winning the game. The Rams just overpowering. The Chinese coming in clutch with their economy. And well, Core's finding it difficult to come up with a response. Does lose that outpost with the relic inside it. So the gold going to become even more of a problem. With the market going down, he won't be able to balance that economy. The farming economy completely exposed and raided to death. And it feels like this time, this second wave is probably a wave too much. And Core, there it is. He taps out. The push from the Chinese way too strong. The denial of the relics in the Castle Age by Valdemar. Absolute clutch play. Denied the relics, denied HRE, stopped them playing the way they wanted to play.